House at the End of the Road by Kari Rust. Robert, do I hear bouncing again? Every summer my brother Patrick and I visit our grandma. Our cousin Robert is usually there at the same time. He stays with Grandma a lot. Grandma has 3 old bikes, and one of our favourite things to do is to explore the town. This is what happened last summer. Look at that whole place. Who do you think lives there? No one. Let's go closer. This is a bad idea, Robert. Look. Hey! Have you ever seen a window break? No, Robert, don't! I don't think Robert really wanted to break the glass. The rock just tapped the window and skipped into the gutter. Suddenly, a ghost! And then we had a problem. What about the bike? Forget it. We should tell Grandma. No way. The next day we had to tell Grandma. Grandma said it was the old Peterson house. Mr. Peterson had been Grandma's favourite teacher when she was a girl, but he wasn't a ghost. I'll take you there after breakfast. You 3 can apologise and we'll pick up the bike. Where is that child? Can you see him? He's hiding in the cupboard there. I think he might be a little bit frightened of Mr. Peterson. We were all pretty nervous. I hope Grandma's sure about that ghost. Come along now. Hurrah! We soon learned about Mr. Peterson's sense of humour. He invited us inside the old house. My goodness, get down, Robert! It was full of fascinating things, and each one had a story. There were films that played on a whirring projector, and piles of old books about plants and animals. Some had flowers pressed in them from years before. Mr. Peterson showed us toys that moved without batteries and an old photograph of a swimming hole. I hardly believe he was a boy in a striped bathing suit. Can you see him in the picture? When it was time to go, Mr. P gave each of us a gift. An old camera for Robert, beautiful pencils and a notebook for me, gardening tools for Patrick, and an old-fashioned board game for Grandma. Oh, isn't that lovely and generous of Mr. Peterson? We visited the old house a lot over the summer. We loved its cool, dark basement. I can see all sorts of interesting things in there. I can see some fruit in jars. I can see some fruit being stored, probably fruiting later. I think they might be apples. Some ice skates. And look, even a train. And its tumble-down garden, still pretty in its own way. I think that's where the apples must have come from the tree. Then one day, Mr. Peterson wasn't there. Instead, there was a man posting a sign on the door. He said that the house was old and unsafe and Mr. Peterson had moved out. No! Go away, said Robert. Robert, what are you doing? Grandma found out that Mr. Peterson was taken to a retirement house by the river. He'd caught a bad cold, so had no visitors for 2 weeks. By then, summer would be over and we'd be gone. We decided to go back and save Mr. P's things, but we were too late. Everything was gone. Robert stormed off. Patrick found a little tin under the porch and started filling it with seeds and clippings from the old garden. Maybe we could save something for Mr. P. I sat down and started to write. That evening, Robert came back so late that he almost missed dinner. He finally showed up with an envelope of photos he had taken. The pictures were of ordinary things around Mr. P's house, but somehow Robert had made them look beautiful. Robert was full of surprises. "Hey, did you go back in the house?" "Robert!" We packed our collections in a box before we left. Oh, can you see what sort of things are in the box? I think there are all sorts of things to help Mr. P remember his house. I can see a picture here that somebody's drawn of his house. I can see some of the plants that they found. Grandma promised to deliver our package to Mr. Peterson. And she did. I can hardly wait for next summer. And that's the end of the story.